Joining us now is Bert Flickinger, head of the Strategic Resource Group. Bert, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Janet. How are you doing? You're a great team on 132, the best station on XM Sirius and all business radio.
Thank you, sir. That is quite the lauded. I appreciate it. We wanted to talk to you this morning about this Kroger-Albertsons merger, which I feel has been going on for an eternity now. And it seems like a fairly straightforward category for a merger, except, of course, in the midst of a period of historically high inflation, a merger of two big grocery store chains has big implications for consumers and thus political implications. Tell us where this merger stands right now. What are the roadblocks at the moment?
Janet, the merger currently stands in the proverbial neutral ground. The FTC is opposed for it using case law precedents that go back to 1958 to 1962 when Walmart and Target didn't even exist, and even 20 years before BJ's and Costco and wholesale clubs existed. So FTC well-intentioned, Janet, but erroneous output and conclusions. It's the most critical merger to really offset the Walmart oligopoly across America. And also, Janet, it's pro-consumer because, as you've reported well in the past, Kroger lowers its prices $250 million a year, every year at a minimum, for 23 consecutive years. It's pro-workers at a time that the three leading labor unions in the retail sector have lost 300,000 workers in our Strategic Resource Group study with the U.S. Department of Labor over 2 decades. Kroger's added 110,000, so the taxpayers aren't paying for benefits for workers the way they are at Walmart. I'm full disclosure, I'm a Walmart shareholder. Wish them well. It's good for farmers, and it's good for communities because Kroger pays more real estate taxes than anybody else in the shopping center anchor space. So it's a win all the way around, Janet. And it's important at the state level, and it's important that Walmart have competition in this country, because Walmart, where it has competition in other countries, the retail balance of power is in balance, and Walmart unsubsidized, which they are in the U.S., tends not to win internationally the way Walmart wins with subsidies nationally, as does Amazon.
So let's just play devil's advocate for a moment, because you're right that Walmart does have kind of this oligopolistic pricing power in this country. But if we see a merger of Kroger and Albertsons, don't they just then have the impetus to raise prices themselves? Or don't they just then have the impetus to sort of exert that sort of oligopolistic pricing power too?
Janet, that's the FTC hypothesis. Yet the Kroger company, going back across the turn of 3 centuries, has always operated more efficiently and effectively, working with farmers, its own food manufacturing, to lower prices, to raise standard of living for shoppers. And as Kroger reported earnings that you reported on earlier this week so well, is that Kroger's gaining customer counts in every consumer segment in the country. And most importantly, Janet, Kroger's gaining more customers with low-income shoppers who can't afford to eat in McDonald's and Burger King, et cetera. So there's a transformational shift in the U.S. For the first time in 40 years, people are spending more to eat at home than away from home. Before COVID, it was 11 meals a week away from home. Now it's up to 20 meals a week at home. Advantage consumer shopping at Kroger, and it's advantage in terms of Kroger's superior private signature label, because the price branded goods companies, notably General Mills, which reported minus 6% sales on your show yesterday, the branded companies have been price gouging for 5 years, and farmers are producing crops at lower prices, but the cereal, snack, cooking, cracker brand companies are raising prices. It's not right, and Kroger's making it right.
Bert, you shared an interesting story, which is about private label grocery products and how these are experiencing a revamp. And I have to tell you, private label products really have undergone a pretty dramatic transformation since I was a kid, at least, in the way they were perceived in popular culture, but also in who consumes them and in their underlying quality. How long has this silent transformation been going on? And what does it mean for the fundamentals of a lot of these companies?
Janet, the transformation's been going on arithmetically, as you synthesized it so well, and now it's going on geometrically. So for comparison, England, Ireland, Scotland, Canada, Australia, and NZ, private label is 45 to 55% of equivalent dollar sales. In the U.S., it's only about 30%, but led by Kroger, Costco, Winco, Aldi, and Trader Joe's, which was co-founded by my great-uncle. Private label is equal or better quality than the national brands at prices that can be 25 to 50% less than branded. So a family shopping a Kroger private label, Janet, could save at least $2,000 a year for a family of four versus the brands that are price gouging. And what's interesting about that is Carrefour, which XM Series 132 reports on as the leading retailer worldwide after Walmart. Carrefour discontinued Frito-Lay and Pepsi products in its biggest markets, Germany, Spain, and France, its home market, for what Carrefour called price gouging. And Kroger's an advocate for the consumer, advocate for lower prices and better living and better quality and better nutrition and paying taxes and supporting the community. And that's why Professor Jim Collins from Stanford wrote in his book, Good to Great, Kroger's been one of the greatest corporations of any kind in America, retail or otherwise, for over 100 years.
We're speaking with Bert Flickinger, head of Strategic Resource Group. Bert, can you tell our audience briefly a little bit about the Strategic Resource Group?
We're a consumer industry consulting firm that works from New Zealand to New York and every major country and continent in between. So from People's Republic of China to the Middle East and Africa and all the other major nations. We work in retail, consumer, agriculture, solar, and sustainable energy. And our family came out of an orphanage about 125 years ago, not knowing their last name was Flickinger. Co-founded IGA, co-founded Red and White, co-founded Federated Foods. What's interesting about that, Janet, is the FTC was trying to impair the independence, the chains, and the co-ops and break up farmer to food manufacturing to food distribution to food retailing back in the 1930s. So my grandfather and great-grandfather and father gave away Federated Foods to found the business school at the University of Chicago, or School of Economics, which became business. And the FTC hasn't understood independence for 80 to 90 years and has been really professionally preying on the independents, the chains, and the co-ops. While Walmart started in 1962, there hasn't been a single investigative FTC issue of charges of competitive pricing or predatory pricing, which were raised by a number of academicians, including some of whom I work with at Cornell. So wish Walmart well, but it doesn't make sense, Janet, when Illinois gives $77 million in subsidies to Walmart, the wealthiest family in the world, and then they close all their stores downtown Chicago, south side and west side, do the same thing the east side of Detroit, as does Amazon. And it's not fair for the public to be subsidizing these wealthy retail overcats while the people who pay their own way, like Kroger, Albertsons, and Winco and others, don't get the same benefits. And where Walmart doesn't get subsidized, Janet, Walmart fails. That includes Japan, Korea, Brazil, Argentina, Central America, as well as Germany, England, Ireland, and Scotland, all big failures for Walmart without subsidies.
Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is Nike, because Nike's such a big name, and they're reporting this week. You're expecting their sales to be flat to negative, and that frankly doesn't surprise me. Not because of Nike in and of itself, particularly, although there are some issues with Nike. But I think we're just starting to see that with consumer brands in general right now. We're starting to see earnings slow down. You have some particular thoughts about Nike itself. Tell us what those are.
Janet, Nike, which was a real meritocracy in the proverbial David versus Goliath consumer goods and sports performance and apparel story in the 80s and 90s under legendary Epiphanous leader Liz Dolan, who was like the proverbial Joan of Arc, and did the Let Us Play spots for girls and women to have equal rights and be free of domestic and sexual violence. Nike was carrying the torch for the world. But more recently, Nike's become a financial company promoting the CFO to run it more on the numbers. Nike's lost 3 key executive officers, including their leading woman executive to competition this week. And competitors haven't been playing the proverbial Rip Van Winkle asleep for years. Adidas up 8% worldwide, up over 13% in Europe, stabilized in the U.S. ASICS, a company we widely applaud, Janet. Every major competitor that Nike has in the U.S. uses rooftop solar for sustainable power, while Nike outsources everything and does low to no solar power. So advantage ASICS, which is gaining significantly in the People's Republic of China, gaining on the performance side and the popular price side. And the other competitors are gaining well too, Janet. So Paris Olympics could be a high watermark for Nike this summer, but a long protracted decline. And no surprise that Nike's down 12% year to date, and project that Nike will be down in the years ahead. And with commodity prices, especially cotton, going up, and the cost of transportation from Nike's offshoring production to People's Republic of China and Bangladesh, costs go up, where ASICS, Under Armour, Brooks, New Balance, great credit to them because they're all U.S. made and manufactured, creating U.S. jobs for U.S. consumers, all the way to Foot Locker, where Nike, in my professional view, is too beholden to Dick's Sporting Goods. And while still Foot Locker's a key partner, Foot Locker's been de-emphasized in the Nike strategy, and to me that's a longer-term mistake. And with the China market, Nike's biggest market for growth, now under unprecedented pressure from ASICS, a phenomenal competitor with their Tiger line, it's going to be a much more competitive race for Nike, and Nike won't be winning first place as well internationally and in the key countries and key markets and as much in the future as it has in the past.
And we're speaking with Bert Flickinger, head of Strategic Resource Group. One other thing you sent over this morning, Bert, that I found really interesting was an article in the Wall Street Journal about pharmacy deserts. And so many of us have heard of the concept of food deserts in lower income communities, but now a new negative phenomenon is starting to occur in which pharmacies are shuttering and abandoning these neighborhoods. What's driving that, Bert? And what can be done to reverse it?
The pharmacy deserts are interesting, Janet, when legendary geniuses, the Feldberg brothers and Frank Rooney, combined for Melville Corporation and Zaire Corporation, which was BJ's and TJX and CVS. There was one drugstore for every population circle of about a mile or 30 to 50,000 people. Then Rite Aid went from regional to national, and Walgreens expanded at record-breaking pace. And private equity fueled store growth along with cheap money and cheap leases. Now we're overstored. And what's interesting is I may have been remiss, Janet, in describing Kroger as a food retailer. They're a food and pharmacy combo store retailer, and they're one of the top drug chains. And Kroger-Albertsons are not closing any drug stores. So there's pharmacy deserts, to your very important point, Janet. In 38 states, there'll be a Kroger-Albertsons, Costco, Save-On drugstore. to support those closed pharmacies, which are a real tragedy, especially Chicago, Detroit, major cities across the country, New York City, where we're headquartered, where seniors and people on fixed and limited income can't even afford public transportation and need to be able to walk to a drugstore to consult with the pharmacist and get his or her medicine. And that's a real crisis in this country with the pharmacy deserts that you so presciently pointed out.
If we want to learn a little bit more about your work and all of your insights, where can we go, Bert?
Our website, srginsight.com, and it's our worldwide work in retail. We do a lot of work for women's rights and women's sports with the captains of leading university teams, basketball and hockey, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Robert Morris, Cornell, Northeastern, Stanford, a number of other schools, and the 50th anniversary of Title IX. Janet, it's a crime that 1 cent on every dollar of sponsorship and marketing money go to women, and 96 to 99% go to men. So there's some work for societal good, sustainability, and recycling that my father and great-grandfather pioneered in this country. And our work on retail, we've been involved in with the Federal Trade Commission. And the one thing that's important about that, Janet, is in Ithaca and Cornell, we took immigrant workers at the suggestion of Ed Rendell, the Democratic National Committee chair, and Senator Schumer, Bob Casey, Sherrod Brown, who were all superstar heroes with the FTC. The FTC refused to listen, Janet. A woman lost her medical benefits. Her mother lost her life. Single heads of household lost her jobs and then their children's jobs in these stores. Everything we predicted came to pass, and the FTC arrogantly refused to look at the stores they were ruling on, and that's been the case from Alabama to Ithaca and every major state in between. So the FTC, in my professional view, next to Walmart, is well-intentioned, and Walmart does a lot of really good things, Janet, but some not. And the FTC...
Bert, I'm sorry. We're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been a wonderful conversation. That's Bert Flickinger. He's head of the Strategic Resource Group.